Welcome, co-curators. Lisa Shepard, good morning,
Good
and Nathalie,
morning.
good afternoon.
Good
Thank you
afternoon.
for joining us virtually at the Whyte Museum. It's a pleasure to finally meet the two of you in person or virtually. First, I'd like to acknowledge, in the spirit of reconciliation, that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Ahari, Nakota Nations, Bearspaw, Wesley, and Chiniki, the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani, and the Tsuut'ina, part of the Dene people, the Tanaka, the Secwepemc, Mountain Cree, and Métis. So to start with, Nathalie, will you please tell us how the Breathe project came to be?
Sure, I would love to. But first, if I may, acknowledge the Mississaugas of the First Credit and the Georgina Island Chippewa as well in my region. Thank you. I would like to also thank you for this interview. And Lisa, great to see you. The Breathe project essentially started in, well, as a lark, kind of. When the pandemic first broke out, I was really struck at how little I was seeing online in terms of the beadwork. And in terms of art in general, I think everybody was kind of shell-shocked at what was happening. And in discussions with my husband, you know, we were talking about it, and I said, well, maybe I should post something online and ask, where are the beaded masks, especially for the Métis, because we have a tendency to bead everything. We'll bead everything anyway, anyhow. And so, it was one of those things like, where are the beaded masks? And so I made a post online kind of as a lark, and it turns out that Lisa Shepard was having the same or a similar conversation, and that's how we basically connected. She saw the post, and I'll let Lisa tell her side of the story.
Yeah, so d- just like Natalie said, the day before she posted about that, my husband had said to me, "Hey, have you thought about beading a mask?" And I said, "Actually, I have." At that point, I actually wasn't being very productive. I had work that I needed to get done, and I just felt stuck. I think there was just so much to think about being hit with the whole idea of a pandemic. It was just too much to think about. And I was stuck. I wasn't producing anything and feeling really down that I wasn't able to. And so he had asked if I'd thought about beading a mask. And then the next morning, I saw Natalie's post and it just seemed kismet. I got in touch with her and said, "Hey, do you want to?" And so we came up with the idea together of doing the Breathe Facebook group and opening it up to everybody and having all other artists participate because we knew that, I certainly knew that some of my artist friends were in the same situation that I was in.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I've found, and our patrons have found in looking at this incredible exhibition, indeed, there are a large variety of different artists that are involved in this exhibition. How many, again, were first applied? I know you had to jury down to the 40 some that we have in this exhibition. Nathalie, do you want to start?
Um, there was easily double that number. I can't recall how many actually applied. And a couple had to step out. But yeah, we ended up, it was over 80 for sure. 89 seems to be the number I recall.
Mhm.
But yeah, and every single one of them was outstanding from a variety of different places, from a variety of different artists, whether it was their first time bead project or there were seasoned professionals. Every single story was amazing. So when we got very grateful to get the jury that we did together. They were impartial. It was a really, really, really hard day. You remember that day, Lisa? It was just
It was.
incredibly.
It was an incredibly humbling and exciting experience to go through with the jurors. The mass came from such a variety of folks, not all Indigenous, a lot that were, but not all Indigenous, and not all beadwork mass. The mass showed so many different mediums. It was really exciting, and the jurors had a really hard job to do to narrow it down.
Yeah,
I
we
think
booked
it's
the meeting for like an hour and a half, I think, and we ended up taking the entire afternoon going through the whole thing because the variety and the stories and everything,
Hmm.
Yeah.
exactly. When you look around at this exhibition, I mean, some, as you say, they're not all beaded. I mean, some are on glass, some are on
Hmm.
plexiglass. There's that wonderful one made out of a menu,
Hmm.
a Chinese menu, I think it is. And yeah, and one indeed made out of beads and zippers,
Yeah.
fabulous. You know,
Yeah,
It
I
must,
mean, the thing.
yeah, it must have been incredibly challenging to narrow it down because I do
Mhm.
remember the full list that came in, and then to have to eliminate some must have been challenging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's story throughout this pandemic has been so important, and everybody's story others can relate to, and that's been the magic that's happened with Breathe. Is you can go on to the Breathe page or come into the and see the exhibition, and your stories are going to resonate with you.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, some of the stories are actually quite heartbreaking.
Hmm. They
Yes.
are.
Yeah. What I've liked too is that some of the stories also force us to, I don't want to say force, that's kind of strong, but allow us to reflect on what society is doing to one another, how we're treating each other. Now, I know that
Hmm.
on the Facebook group, everybody's really respectful towards one another, but we're also able to talk about some of the more complicated discussions. You mentioned Don Kwan's Chinese menu mask. It's actually one of my favorites because of the seriousness of the issue that Asians were facing when the
Mhm.
pandemic, and probably still today, that the Asians were facing with racism,
Hmm.
being blamed for what's happening in the world. And so that mask is a representation of that. So it's very strong in a very simple way. So
Hmm.
each mask has their own story that has its own strength and its own something that everybody can relate to, everybody can talk about, you know?
And
So,
each one is so personal too.
yeah,
People
exactly.
really opened up their hearts.
Yeah, exactly. And the detail that's gone into so many of them is just phenomenal.
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
So this exhibition is going to travel after it leaves the Whyte Museum. We'll be taking it down, sadly, in a week or two. And so, where will it be traveling, Lisa?
Yeah, so it's going to go from the White to another venue in Alberta. We're not allowed to name the venues because they haven't gone public with it yet, but I can tell you that it's going to another venue in Alberta. Then it's also going to some other provinces. It's going Northwest Territories, Saskatchewan, and Ontario.
Excellent. And Nathalie, there's a second Breathe exhibition, I understand, that's going to be pulled together as well. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Well, the second Breathe exhibition came about shortly after we finished during the first wave. So we decided to call it the second wave, kind of, art imitates life kind of thing. um, Not to make fun, but, kind of to represent, what's happening with the actual pandemic. So that one is actually currently being juried right now. Um, Hopefully the selections will come out soon. And I'm actually not part of it at all, like in terms of being part of the jury. I don't even know what's going on with it at this point, except that the selections are going to be coming through very soon. It is going to be first at the Art Gallery of Guelph. We know that this is public. They're the ones who sponsored the second wave. So it's going to the Art Gallery of Guelph. Then it's going to be going to another exhibition venue in Alberta. And then the beautiful thing is that both the first and second wave are going to come together for a final show starting in 2022, going into 2023.
Excellent.
So the two groups are coming together, but there are still spots available for the second wave if anybody wants to book it.
That's excellent. I like the idea that the two shows will be blended as a final tour. Brilliant.
Mhm.
So Lisa, quickly, this has taken you girls both a lot of work to pull these two exhibitions together: the jury, the traveling, all of the above. How has How have these projects impacted your art practices and daily lives?
Yeah. So, of course, everybody has other things going on during all of this. And that's the thing, is that we're all moving through a pandemic, and it's probably the most complicated, most difficult time in our entire lives. And certainly it has been for me. I've got elderly parents, dad-in-law who's in hospital, mom-in-law who's, being moved from seniors place to seniors place to accommodate her. So all of that's been going on while, the pandemic's been happening and while Breathe has been happening. Um, Breathe has really brought exposure to so many different artists. And I know that it's launched at least a few careers, which has been super exciting. Um, Artists have managed to receive commissions. So when they put their art into the exhibition, it's not for the purpose of selling the art, but of course their art's going to be seen, and others will reach out to them for commissions. For myself, I was received 3 commissions for masks, so separate from the masks that are in the exhibition. But more than anything, it's just been an amazing feeling to know that, in some small way, as just grassroots people, we were able to impact, artists across Canada, to give them exposure, to have their work be seen, and maybe help launch a few careers has been, it's been something that's been a real positive in such a dark time.
That's wonderful. Natalie, do you
Mhm.
want to add to that?
Sure. Well, Breathe essentially took over my life. We've had it's been tough in Ontario because we've been faced with so many lockdown situations, and I guess because our population is larger and everything, and we've had um, our own medical whatever situations that couldn't be taken care of because our hospitals are just overrun, and et cetera, et cetera. But otherwise, the Breathe project has really um, opened my eyes to a lot of things about the way the arts work in this country, about how artists make money, how um, Canada versus the US, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's been eye-opening in so many levels, like politically, bureaucratically, through the art scene, the way things work. Um, of course, I repeat everything that Lisa says about being able to bring these opportunities to other artists. I'm incredibly proud of that. It's exploded and blown up into something so much more than I ever imagined it could have at the same time. So incredibly proud of that, and incredibly grateful for the support that we've received. I mean, from galleries and teams such as yourselves, as well as the media. CBC has been amazing to us, and the
Mhm.
other media outlets have been incredibly supportive during this time. So people are coming together, and so even though we hear of all these bad news stories going on, at the same time you start to find the good people, those people in the good stories that really put the faith back in humanity. you know so it's been an incredible experience, quite a roller coaster ride. um but I feel very grateful and blessed to have been able to be a part of it all.
Excellent. Well, it certainly is an exhibition that we will never forget at the Whyte. Our guests and visitors have just been enthralled by it. And again, going back to the stories of the people who made them and why, and the actual beauty of them, it's spectacular. We look
I have to say, we're so proud of the White for being so brave and being the first group to exhibit. Um, During such a difficult time, you really allowed people to see what's going on in Canadians' lives, and so we're really grateful to the White for doing that.
Well, you're very welcome. I mean, when we saw the exhibition sort of online, and we just, we heard about the idea, and it was like, we've got to do this. No way we weren't going to bring this show in. It was just, it's so pertinent to what's going on right now. And, the fact that you called the show Breathe is brilliant. And I love the notion that the second wave is going to, stick with that whole theme. that unfortunate COVID theme.
Mm.
Lisa, what do you hope the outcome of these unprecedented times will be? I know the two of you kind of have alluded to the idea that, you know, this has provided opportunity for these artists, but what else do you see happening as a result of the whole COVID, you know, in a broader scale?
Wow, that's such a big question. I mean, there's been more that's been going on during this time than just pandemic. We've had Black Lives Matters movement, some craziness going on at the Capitol in the US this past week. There's just been so much that's been going on, within the Indigenous scene and in Canada as well. There was a time during the pandemic where things slowed down when we were in lockdown that we just saw a quietness, a stillness come over. And I think it really forced people to look um, inside, to look introspectively. Um, there was a time when during this pandemic where everything was quiet and clean, the air was clean. And I don't know, I guess for myself, I just really hope that people experience that moment and that we seize that as an opportunity to really think about the things that are very important. There has to be a balance. Things can't go one way or another. There has to be a balance. And I just really hope that this pandemic has forced us to look at ourselves as human beings and what we take away and what we contribute as well. That's what I hope comes of this. I think that we made some things happen that weren't good, that got us to the point that we're at. But the good news in that is that that means that we also have the ability, it's up to us, and we have the ability to turn things around and make things better.
Lovely, lovely. How about you, Nathalie?
Well, I mean, I echo that for sure. One of the things that I said earlier on when Breathe first started was, here we are in a situation where all peoples of all nations are facing the same crisis. It's not just one group being oppressed, or it's not just one group facing, you know, uh, these diseases that come through. It's everybody. And now I'm hoping that the barriers and the walls that we've been able to break down because of that will allow us to come together, to be able to collaborate better, to be able to discuss things and work through our issues together, and now because we could relate to each other better now. We've all faced, we all have a very distinct story coming out of it, but because it stemmed from the same issue, I think it is what links us together. So hopefully it brings us better together as humans, you know?
I also hope that it also brings forward the importance of art. I think that
Yeah.
through this, as people turn to the internet and, and streaming concerts online and that kind of thing to get them through such a difficult time, I hope that people look at that and say, you know what, the arts is really important. And we start to see the arts be funded in a way that's really important and
Yeah.
opportunities open up for these artists because they're doing more than just making pretty things. They're really contributing in a big way. So
Yeah,
that's
we're
another thing.
recording an aspect in time. Like we're recording,
Absolutely.
it's historic artifact is what is happening,
Mhm.
So for sure, 100%. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So is there anything else the two of you would like to share with us? Lisa, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think just gratitude for everybody that came together and made this happen. Natalie and I are being the spokespeople for this because, Breathe started with our idea, but it's there's thousands, a couple thousand people on the page now and all the artists that contributed to both shows. And so just gratitude for everybody coming together during a difficult time and that it brought out the best in people in so many ways. So yeah, I'm just grateful for that.
Hmm.
Nathalie?
I'm grateful for all of that and the support and everything that we did get. I'm also so grateful to communities such as Tiendinaga in Ontario, who were also inspired by Breathe and took the project and created their own version for their community. I mean, that's what community is all about. And, they credit us and all that kind of stuff. And that shows reciprocity, and that shows how, they appreciate the project and everything, or the idea. But the fact that they took it and they thought it was a good enough idea to bring to their own people, to spread the goodwill and the healing. I mean, I'm so proud of that and so grateful for that. you know, and also the other groups of people who have helped us with establishing Breathe for Education. So
Yes.
bringing that, creating the Breathe project in a way so that students anywhere can recreate their project in the classroom and make it relevant to whatever curriculum that they're dealing with or talking about. You know, it's been shared all over the world. So I'm
Mhm.
so grateful that we've been able to impact people in so many different ways, and that we've received that support, that reciprocity, but we've also, you know, that we have the interest from all these different groups in sharing the idea for the healing of their people.
The where can members of the community go to route the masks?
Yeah, well, I know that they can find the information about the mass artist statements on your webpage, on the Whyte's webpage. Of course, they're also all up on the Breathe Facebook page, the masks that are part of the exhibition and all masks that have been ever submitted to the Breathe Facebook group. They're all there with the artist statements, and we encourage people to take a look at your website and the Breathe Facebook group and read what people have to say, make the connections to your own story that way.
We
Excellent.
also have some media. There's a list of all the media that we've received on the Facebook group. So they show a few more interviews with some of the participants as well.
Mhm.
So if you want some more in-depth media interviews, they're also on the Facebook page.
Well, thank you to the two of you for co-curating this amazing exhibition and for having faith in the Whyte Museum to take it on and premiere it here. It's been an absolutely fabulous experience for us, and we certainly hope that we can help out in any way we can to ensure that this exhibition is seen by many, 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 many people across the country and hopefully the world.